Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the worst card designs for 1993 across all four sports. When I was putting this list together, I was surprised that I didn't have any hockey cards on it. And that was because of the simple reason that hockey really didn't have very many designs that were unique to it in 1993. So there weren't a lot of opportunities for the cards to really fail. There just wasn't enough going on there for that opportunity. And so the only thing I really have to complain about with hockey is the same designs that are not successful because the images are too busy. So I can just kind of do a blanket statement of, yeah, that's the problem with the hockey cards that don't work. I don't need to get into it because the card designs are good, just not successful with the image selection. That's really all it comes down to. But I've also got 7 cards on this list, so I really don't need to worry about hockey cards. I got enough to talk about with the other 3 sports. So great, so let's go ahead and start. And at the beginning, I have 2 honorable mentions of cards that I don't think are failures at all. I think they're actually kind of nice, but at the same time, obviously I'm talking about them here, so they're not a complete success by any stretch of the imagination. And the first one is Skybox Impact, which is football. And here I like really everything that they did. They've got everything they need for the card to work well. It's a fun concept where you basically blur out the background in order to make it kind of out of focus so that the player pops out very cleanly. And then the text is interplaying with, well, the ghost text at the top is interplaying with the player and the background. And then I like the logo down at the bottom. All the things it needs to do, it does well, including the fact that the player really does stand out on this card. The only problem is they didn't nail how they did all of this. So that means that the background, it's not just out of focus, it's literally blurry. And that's the problem. If it was out of focus, so it didn't quite, it was kind of fuzzy. That's one thing. But this is blurry to the point where it becomes a distraction. If I look at this card, it grabs me, pulls me in, and I get excited. That's the first thing about this card. It actually does a good job of getting me excited. In card pages, it's not quite as successful, but I'm fine with that because it still holds up, even in card pages, to a large extent. It's just the fact that as I spend time with it, then I get, it's not even that I get bored with it. I don't. I get distracted by the blurriness. That's a failure. So for me, I like this card almost. The other one I want to talk about that isn't one of the worst is Topps Basketball. And Topps had gone on a couple of year run of using the same design across all 3 or 4 sports. And here this was the first time they broke out of that to start doing unique designs for individual sports once again. And the basketball card is actually a good design. It's not great, but it is good. I like the elements at the bottom. The swoosh is a little clean, but apart from that, everything else about the card I think does work well. And the images have an interest to them if you spend the time to really study them. But that's the problem, is that the images are too intricate. And so you have to spend a lot of time looking at it. This is a card that absolutely fails the display case test, which is, if this card is in a display case, are you ever going to notice it? And the answer is no, you're never going to notice it. It's just going to blend right in, and that's not good. I don't like that about this card. But if I take the time, then it actually does give me a lot to really appreciate about the card, but I have to do all the work, and that's not good. Cards are the advertising. They are the packaging. Their job is to get my attention and to hold my attention. This card doesn't do it. And because I'm focused on learning all about the 90s, I don't have time to sit down with a card and give it a chance and to explore it. I can't do that. Maybe back in 1993 and 1994, I might have had time to do that, but here I don't. And so this is a card that every time I look at it, I just go, oh yeah, and move on. In fact, it's a card you're not going to remember down the road. You may look at it and get all warm and fuzzy and go, oh, I love the card, but it's not one you're going to remember later on in almost all cases. But again, it is a good design, and it does have the ability to entertain you for a while. So that's good. And that's why these are not among the worst designs in 1993, but they're adjacent to that. So on the list, I'm starting out at number 5 with one of the only two that has a clear place. So number 5 and number 1 are both very obvious. And in the case of number 5, it is playoff contenders in football. This card should absolutely in no way be all the way out here at number 5. The card front has almost no design. It just has a little box with a playoff logo and a name, but it's clean and it's well crafted. And the card back is just, it is, I don't even want to say pedestrian. It's dumb. I'm just going to say it. The back is dumb. The reason I have it here is because this is all about the image, and they did tend to create or to use good images. Now, the images don't really pop in the way I'd like for them to, but there was no way you could do that. The whole point of Playoff was their Techchrome technology, which takes any bold image and it gets rid of the boldness. This is a card you have to explore, but the images have a tendency to come out pretty well if you give them a chance. So that's the key to this card, is the fact that it actually does work. Yes, I did just say that Topps basketball is not good because you have to give it a chance. In this case, this is further down the list, and so it is kind of justified in that way, but that is the strength, is the fact that the card does actually entice you to explore the card and to appreciate the image, and when you do that, the design is out of the way. So this is at number 5 by default because the card doesn't get in the way of the image. We're going to see that that is mostly the theme moving forward. And at number 4, we got the best example of that, which is Finest in basketball. And this is the one that this is the most tumultuous, because this I really want to put at number 2. I really want to. I mean, it does everything, not even considering how these cards didn't age well. I'm not even concerned with that. The card back, my word, this is a mess. It is just, there's too much. All of the colors, the nature of the colors, the tie-dye, it's way too busy, and it's very bright, and it overpowers images that can be lackadaisical, they can be good. You don't know, you don't care because you don't see them. And then they have that weird design element behind of the stone wall, which I don't know what they were going for with that. It's weird. In fact, there's only one thing about this card that works, and that's all the whole Topps Finest design at the bottom. That is the only thing that's positive about this card. It's essentially, they were just counting on the technology to carry the day, and for a lot of people, that was enough. I would, if this was done with a card that had, with a card technology that was more vibrant, I could understand all of the bright colors, but it just doesn't make sense on this card in any way. It's too distracting, it's too much. I don't have the ability to see and appreciate the player, which is the whole point of the card. It just doesn't work. But like I said, I'd love to have this at number 2, except it does have the technology working for it. And at number 3 and number 2, I have cards that are super, super underwhelming. At number 3, in fact, we have Bowman, and specifically baseball. The Bowman design for 1993 is boring to say the least. This is a case where they really were relying on images, and they were doing an okay job selecting images. I think they did a much better job in football than they did in baseball, which is why I have baseball here. They have some design elements that have a lot of potential. I like the Bowman logo. I like what they were trying to do with it. And the text down at the bottom for the name is serviceable, but it's the white border around the outside that kills the opportunity for the player image to work. If they'd done like a gray, that might have worked. The white just doesn't work. It is too strong. It overpowers and creates a whole mood to the cards that in football, I think that the images can kind of fight with it and kind of overpower it. So it has almost a success to it. In baseball, I haven't seen enough images that stand on their own to counter that. And so this is a card that has tremendous potential, except the white border takes it all away. So that's why I have it at number 3. But at number 2, we have that very gray or silver border that I was referring to on Fleer Baseball. But in this case, you see where they just really dropped the ball with how they designed the card. It's all about that strip down the side. Team color strip, okay, that's nice, but it's too blocky and it's out of place, and the text doesn't really read well, and there's not a cohesive design feel to it. When I first saw these cards, it was I think it was Atlantic, which was the company that Fleer was working with. And to me, I just thought that that was some weird off-brand set that they did for some company on a corporate gig, which it kind of was, but they were using the actual set design, and that didn't make sense to me. So that when I actually looked at the actual Fleer cards, I went, that is it. It's not underwhelming. It's just bad. It's dumb. It's lame. I can't think of what to say about this because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. This, to me, I can't have it anywhere other than number 2, in part because I can't put anything below it other than Pacific Prism. And this is football, obviously, because, well, they did do a little bit with baseball, but with football, this is a major release. In fact, it's Pacific's first release for an ultra premium brand. And so the problem with Pacific Prism is that this is, in 1992, they did an insert set, which actually worked pretty well because it was fun. It was this little thing where you just kind of look and go, oh, hey, yeah, that's kind of cool. That's where this works well. When you put it as an actual set, it's not a success in any way because it starts off, it's just a paste-on image of a player, and the images aren't really interesting in any way. Then the background is overpowering, it completely dominates the card, it gets boring in a hurry, and the text down at the bottom works well for an insert set, but not for a main set. And so when you look at one card, you look at it and go, oh, that's cool, and then it's immediately boring. When you look at more than one card, it becomes monotonous, and you're fighting to see the image of the player, and for me personally, I am fighting to care about the cards at all. That's the thing. This is a card, for a main set, come on, man, come on. They would do better Prism cards later on, but at this point it is just too kitsch and it just doesn't work. So it is the worst card design in 1993 as far as I'm concerned, and I'd be shocked if anybody felt that there was another one that was lower. But at any rate, that's my list. So now that I have the worst of for 1993 out of the way, now it's time to start to go into the best of. So that's going to be the next 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. So definitely look for those coming up. And let me know in the comments below your take on the list and where you see things lining up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I do urge you to do so, and do check out my other videos. And thank you very much for watching.